If everyone could return to their places, we'll get started. We're on the 4 o'clock hour for our commission meeting. Thank you. It is really cold. I got it. Thank you. We're all ready? This time I'd like to call this meeting of June 12th of the Lynn Haven City Commission to order. I have not asked in advance, but with great pleasure I would like to ask my friend Mr. Miller if he would lead us in prayer, and I'm so happy that you are feeling better. You could please stand.
Upon us this month and throughout the year, oh Heavenly Father. Oh Heavenly Father, we ask you to continue to bless us. Give us the strength to love and to move this city forward, oh Heavenly Father. Oh Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless the leaders of this city, oh Heavenly Father. And look up under the citizens of this city, oh Heavenly Father. Continue to give us strength and love for each other. In thy name, for Christ's sakes ever. Amen.
Amen. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 is the mayor's report. My report for this time, I'd like to start with thanking all of the city employees, especially the community services department, and also and the facilities and maintenance department. We have so many new names for our departments. I'm still getting there. I'd also like to thank Julie Higbee and also Vicki Gaynor for all that they did on the Hermit Crab Festival, all the departments of the city, the first responders. There's really no one to leave out because it was a group effort. And the Hermit Crab Festival was a tremendous success on Saturday. We were so happy that the weather cooperated. Just a few miles north, they were having terrible thunderstorms, and we were spared. And we had about 35 vendors out there, all kinds of games going on for the children, music and food. And so I just can't say enough about what a great event it was for Lynn Haven, such a family-oriented event pointed at our children. It was just great, so thank you. I've also had the opportunity to meet and listen in on the paving meetings for the last couple of weeks, and have learned a great deal about probably all that you would ever want to know about sewer and lining pipes, and how difficult it is to find problems, and the scheduling and all that goes into the engineering and the construction, and all that goes into paving and making the roads the way we all want them to be. Great job is being done. I also met for almost 2 hours with our city manager to discuss the mid-year budget, and as I said earlier in the workshop, I'm very pleased with all that he's doing to lead the city forward, and very pleased with what the employees are doing to make sure that the vision is going forward as well. Cannot emphasize how many wonderful comments are coming in from the public, how everyone feels good about Lynn Haven. It's where everyone wants to live, and my great honor to serve as mayor. I also had an opportunity to travel to Tallahassee for a meeting with one of my friends there who's going to try and give us some help in pushing forward some funding, and I'll have more on that later. And I've also been speaking with a group of individuals who are quite interested in trying to push forward the idea of a small municipal airport in our area. So I thought that was a great thought, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. It's a group of pilots and businessmen and landowners, and I think it would be something worth listening to. So that's all I have, and I would like to at this time go to Commissioner Dan Russell for his commissioner's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Somewhat of a busy week and obviously enjoyable too. But first, I'd like to ask everybody to please keep the young man from Moet Highlands in their prayers. He's still apparently in critical condition from the lightning strike yesterday, and you know, I won't say his name, but please keep him and his family in your prayers. The Hermit Crab Festival was an amazing event, and I want to thank everybody that had a hand in it, and let you know that I had a couple of people come talk to me about that event and said that they're getting more and more of a feeling of community with Lynn Haven, and asked us to please consider, you know, adding more events. I mean, they're between the concerts and all the other events, they really like what we're doing. So just hopefully we can work that out and get something going with that too. The splash pad's still moving forward. I went by and checked on it this morning. Not as fast as I would like it to be going, but I'm excited to see it up and really excited to see the kids in there playing it. And I had the pleasure of going and doing a tour of the Bay County EOC Friday. For any of y'all that have not been to that building yet, you need to go look at it. It's a 50,000 square foot building that Gulf Coast State College has built, and footing the bill for it and allowing the Bay County EOC to house inside it. And it's a very nice facility. So, and I think that's about all I've been doing this week. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank
y'all.
you. Commissioner Tender?
Actually, yes, I do. I just have one thing, and it might be of interest to the citizens. My longtime dear neighbor, Libby Tennell, gave me a call as soon as I got back from vacation and said that her ditch problem is still the same as it's always been. But one of the things she got relief from, and this is something just keep in the back of your mind, she is so infested with mosquitoes in her ditch that she called the Bay County mosquito folks. They came out to her house, they sprayed, they really spent a long time with her, and went around in her yard and everything, and have really helped with the mosquito. Now, I don't know how long it'll last, but I just was really impressed that they came out when she gave them a call. So just pass that on if you have a situation and you need some relief. It can't hurt to give them a call. And really, that is all I have. I've just been gone for a while. I'm glad to be home. And that's all I have. Thank you.
We're glad to have you back. Thank you. Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, just to have two items. The first item was the groundbreaking ceremony that took place at the new Preservation Park behind Deer Point Elementary School. That's going to be a very fascinating park, and if you, of course, there's nothing out there now, but if you had the opportunity, just go drive out there, look and see where this park is going to be, and I think it's going to be a true asset to the city of Lynn Haven. The second item I have is that I played in a golf tournament sponsored by the Gents Incorporated. They raised over $10,000 in scholarships that they awarded to Bay County High School students. And this is a tournament that I play in every single year because I believe that our Bay County students need the help if they're wanting to go to higher education or career and technical education training. So we had a great time at both of these events, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have a comment about the mosquito control as well. So coincidentally, I was helping a resident with a mosquito problem, and when I spoke with them, they just wanted to let us know that they are running a little bit behind because of all the, as it relates to spraying, because of all the rain, they've gotten a little behind. But I'd helped once before, and I think it's interesting to let residents know that if you have a pool that's close by, or you may have a foreclosure or something like that that's close by in your neighborhood, and it has a green pool, you can call them, and not only will they come out and they'll treat your yard or do whatever it is, they'll make an appointment and come see it. But like for the green pool, they'll actually treat that as well. But the way they treat that is with minnows. They actually put minnows in there, and the minnows eat the larvae and all that kind of good stuff. So I thought that was interesting. But mosquitoes are on the rise. We have all the water coming down. But anyway, they just did let me know yesterday that they're running a little bit behind. But hopefully most of Lynn Haven will be complete today and today and tonight. But anyway, also had on a fun note, had Lynn Haven Elementary come over, 5th graders. We had about 7 classes. Appreciate Julie helping with that. We had a great time. We had a great discussion. We had good mock commission meetings. Had a good time with that. Hermit Crab Festival, can't say enough about that. It's the best one that we've had. A lot of work goes into that. Really want to thank everyone, all the employees, everyone that participated in putting that together. And also want to thank the vendors for coming out and participating as well, because we can't do it without them. And it was a great community event. I did attend the MPOAC meeting. One of the things I just wanted to mention about that, I'm honored to be able to do that on behalf of the TPO, but one of the things that it does for me, it gives me an opportunity to meet with other, not only representatives across the state, but also other FDOT representatives, federal representatives. And this time in particular, I got to spend some extra time with a couple of different people, and they were giving me insight on funding as it relates to Rails for Trails. So toward the end of the month, they're going on vacation. So toward the end of the month, I'll be having a couple of meetings over in Tallahassee and getting some instructions and going in some other directions to try to find additional funding for Rails to Trails. And lastly, I was very honored to participate in the celebration of First Baptist Lynn Haven's new education building for the children over there. It's a great building. I really appreciate what they're doing for our community over there. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask for the city manager's report, item number 5, I need to go back to mayor's report just for a moment. The city manager has asked me to add an item to tonight's agenda. The item he would like to see added is no parking on 5th Street on July the 4th from Tennessee to Montana. And that's over on the west side where the lineup is. And his reasoning for this was that the police department has requested it because after the fireworks, it's so difficult for people to get out. It's very congested. So if I could have a motion to add this to the agenda, it's no parking on 5th Street on July 4th from Tennessee to Montana.
So move.
So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is there any objection or discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll? Oh, excuse me. I went ahead and took a motion to put it on the agenda. I'm sorry not to approve it. So this is just to put it on the agenda. Okay, go ahead, Mr. White.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes? Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so this will become item number item number 19 on the agenda, and then the adjournment will be item number 20. Thank you so much. Mr. White, your city manager's report, please.
Yes, ma'am. Before I start, I'd like for Beverly to come up and employ Amanda DeLonge in our accounting department. Please come up.
She's worked for the city since 2003 and started as a customer service representative. She's been here 15 years and she's filled positions including utility billing supervisor, purchasing clerk, HR assistant, and most recently she's the city's accountant. Amanda's being recognized this month for stepping up to assist with current projects, including transitioning to a new bank, implementing new banking services, implementing new employee time reporting, and payroll processing changes, and training employees. She's also taken in accounting for fixed assets for the city and helping with providing audit information, and she was instrumental in setting up all of our new benefits in the financial system and keeps those reconciled and in order every pay period. So Amanda's the go-to person at City Hall due to her helpfulness and her knowledge and her commitment and diligence is greatly appreciated.
Could I ask Mr. Horton to come up? And we have Supervisor of the Quarter this time. And can I ask Ms. Ramona Bibbs, please come up?
always perform her duties to a great deal of the best of them, and she always keeps me well informed of what's going on, because I don't know much about dogs and cats and shit. So, as she goes, she's always coming and telling me that her people are okay, and she takes care of her crew very well without me having to put out our English on our TV, and that's a good sign. Ramona is well loved by the community. Back when I first started, I found out that she had got a lady, a good friend of hers, passed away, and she donated $98,000 to her because of the way she took care of the animals for us. Last month or so ago, she got some lawyer to give the dogs a sound system, so now the dogs got a stereo system all the way through there, so they're happy, so the pets are really good. And the best one, probably the best thing of all is, most of the time when I get a phone call, it's somebody's complaining about what we've done and what we didn't do right, which just last week, no, 2 weeks ago, a school come to our playground to play, did their lunch and stuff, and they thought they were at the Humane Society. Well, here, all of a sudden, they bring 25 kids into our animal shelter, and she just, And so the teacher called and said that she needs to be recognized for something she took all 25 kids, did a whole tour, gave them all the brochures and everything. And that lady called and said, we need to do something for her, so I think congratulate her for supervising the board of directors.
Take a picture with it, Dave. Thank you. I'd like to echo Beverly and David's sentiment about these two employees. They're always great. Amanda helps keep everybody on track, make sure the bills get paid for the city is one of the largest jobs. There's a lot of invoices go through the city. Ramona cannot ask anything else. I don't think she's scared of any animal out there. But she does a wonderful job with her staff, and we're blessed to have both of them. Furthermore, wanted to mention we have went live. If you remember, I had spoken to the commission. We went live with Bay County's radio system, and with our system, we are sharing services with Bay County now. So our police force can see everything Bay County. We can see records from the jail, all kinds of record pictures. It's a lot faster. Additionally, it's going to save the city about $90,000 a year for us to be on this system. And it's a lot better system than what we currently have, is the way I understand. I'd like to echo Mr. Barnes' thing about the preservation part. That should be starting at the end of this month. It's about a 21-month project, so hopefully within 21 months you'll see a lot of changes out there, and it'd be a great place for educating our students as well as people hiking and enjoying frisbee golf out there, and canoeing and any boating they might like to do. The Crab Festival, I definitely would want to thank everyone, and we've included a lot of people. I want to make sure Lauren is pointed out. She done a wonderful job. She continues to do a wonderful job for us. I appreciate that. To let you know, the Bart Park at Kensaw, it should be in operation by 1st of July. We've gotten a lot of the gates up, concrete. Luckily, we have some artists here at the city. They're helping with a lot of the design, and we hope to have everything running there, as well as the service center. We hope around the 1st of July it will be opening, and we'll be able to take payments and permitting and allow some employees to spread out and actually get, hopefully work done a lot more efficiently and effectively. Lastly, just letting you know, I've been working a lot with developers and for residential and businesses. So I think Lynn Haven is a place a lot of people want to be and live. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Item number 6 is our city attorney's report.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 7 is public commentary. This is your opportunity if you're visiting with us today at the City Commission meeting and you would like to make a comment about any of the items on tonight's agenda, or if there's something you'd like to bring before the commission that's not on the agenda, this is also an opportunity. Would anyone like to be recognized? Mr. Miller.
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. I'd like to ask the city manager a question. How's we coming along with 17th Street turn lane? Right there by Tender Credit Union and the pizza place.
Yes, sir. I have not heard anything. Let me ask the engineer if he's heard anything lately. Still working with it with the golf cart crossing. So it's tied in with that.
It's tied into delayed turn signal for both sides of the street?
Is that correct?
Okay. Now, the other thing is, where are we standing with 390, with the state on that now?
As far as the widening of 390,
Yes,
sir?
ma'am.
My understanding, there are several segments of it. I know one of the things that has been postponed indefinitely is the widening on the east side of Highway 77. At the last TPO meeting, they talked about a deficit of $35 million, which they do not have to purchase the right-of-way. As far as the widening of the other sections, I believe those are progressing. What I heard, as far as the utilities replacement, we're looking at approximately 18 months for that. Is that correct, yes, City Manager? About 18 months as they start, removing the utilities along the curve in the area leading into Lynn Haven. Does anyone else on the board want to add anything to that as far as information from Mr. Miller? I think that's...
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else have anything you'd like to bring up that's not on tonight's agenda, or it can be? Yes, Mr. Robitaille?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
When I walked up here this afternoon, I thought, boy, this ever look nice. The awning, the paint job, the whole environment here. And then I thought, well, that's not the first time I thought this. It seems no matter where I go lately in Lynn Haven, it looks real nice. It makes me feel good to live here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robitaille. We appreciate that, and I think it's the great leadership of our city manager. I think it's the great buy-in of our city employees, and I think that Lynn Haven is the place where everyone wants to be right now. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Yes, I'm Carolyn Daniels. I live at 1615 Hour Avenue. I just want to get a better understanding on the code enforcement for keeping your lawn clean, because I have a next door neighbor that only mowed his yards one time last year, and it's starting out the same way this year. And I've called on a number of times about it, and I think I saw them over there at one time last year, but it's really bad.
What was your address, ma'am?
Excuse me?
Can you give me your address?
1615 Hour Avenue.
Hour Avenue.
And
Okay.
the resident is on 802 17th Street.
Okay. I'm going to have an employee get with you and get your phone number for me, and I will take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I don't think I've overlooked anyone. Okay, moving on then to item number 8, which is our consent agenda. The only item on this agenda tonight are the minutes from the last meeting of May 22nd. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion, corrections, or comments about the agenda?
Yeah, Mayor, just more of a typo than anything.
Okay.
On my commission report, it's NPOC. It's supposed to be MPOC. I don't have the best accent, so that's probably what messed that up. And then also, I just wanted it to mention, it said invited them, and I just wanted to mention that that I invited the commission and the mayor to the Lynn Haven time with the Lynn Haven Elementary. That's all.
Thank
And I've
you.
mentioned those already to Ms. Vicki.
Are there any other comments about the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve. Any comments from the public on the minutes? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Yes.
Commissioner Friend.
Yes.
Commissioner Tender.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Stands approved. Moving on to old business, which is number 9. This is splash pad discussion for Kane Griffin Park. In May, we had some discussion about the possibility of building the second splash pad park at Kane Griffin Park rather than at the sports complex. There was asked that there be some time for public input and discussion. And I would say the materials for that splash pad came in yesterday, and I saw, as well as the one at Kensall. So both splash pads are ready to be equipped right away. So at this point, I would open this for discussion, if there is any discussion, or if there is a motion of any kind from the commission.
Yeah, Mayor, I would make a motion that we move this splash park to King Griffin. I still feel the same way that I did before. I feel like it's a safer environment for the children to get there than it is to the sports park.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor that the splash pad would be located at the Kane Griffin Park. And I did note that there was a question from the public. I'll give an opportunity in just a moment for questions and discussion from the public. Is there a second for Commissioner Tender's motion? And there appears to be no second. Therefore, the motion is not going to be allowed to come to the floor. The mayor cannot second. However, I will take public comment if you had a question or comment you wanted to make about the location of it.
Mayor.
Would you approach the podium? Thank you.
I just wanted to know how big it's going to be, or if it's going to eliminate some of the things that's already there.
Right.
That was my question.
It would not eliminate anything. It would be an addition, and the approximate square footage of it is around 2,000 square feet. And there are a couple of areas out there where it was discussed about adding.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. You're going back a year or so ago when we first started talking about these splash pads. It was strongly recommended that one pad would go to Kensall Park and one would go down to Kane Griffin Park. There was some discussion that it was difficult for the kids in this neighborhood to get cross 77 over to Billy Kensall Park. It really surprised me that you sit there today and didn't give a second to this thing. You want to isolate that community from everything else, and I don't think it's fair. That you're telling me that you are putting us in second place. We are citizens just as anybody else. And Mr. Russell, I'm surprised, real surprised. But you bought up the skateboard for your grandkids.
If you would, excuse me, if you would, Mr. Miller, direct your comments to the entire commission. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
We pay tax over there just as good as anybody else. These citizens here today is wanting to know why. Why? That's a good community over there. And it's a well-integrated community. And the Kane Griffin Park is well used, better than any of some of these parks every day in Lynn Haven. And I hope the citizens back me up, and we're not going to sit and let this go undone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Mayor, if I may,
Commissioner Russell, yes.
am I allowed to address Mr. Miller?
Of course you are.
Ms.
What I was doing is I was asking that
Okay.
the public not to single out a commissioner, but you may certainly answer the questions. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give that impression.
No, you're fine.
Go
I'm
ahead.
just, Mr. Miller, Commissioner Miller, and I know you don't know me that well, but I can assure you that's not the way I think. I keep my word to whoever I have given my word to. I will tell you in front of everybody that I think the place this park needs to be is at King Griffin. But when we first started talking about putting 2 parks in, it was a, how do I put this? It was an agreement. There was a disagreement on this commission about where the park should go. So we agreed to put 2 parks in so that we could have a park, because it looked like the commission was never going to agree that we were never even going to have 1, much less 2. So it was a compromise to put one at Kensaw and the other one at the rec center. I agreed to that because that was the compromise to get the parks built. I'm not going to go back on my word until the other commissioners agree to it. But I will tell you that I think that the place it needs to be is at King Griffin. But who am I if I go back on what I've said? And I know that's not the answer you want, but that's where we stand. I can't go back on what I've told somebody I will do. So I apologize that that's the situation we're in, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell. But if I may add to what Commissioner Russell said, however, about King Griffin, it is entirely true what Commissioner Russell said, that initially we weren't going to have splash pads at all, and then in order to get one at Kensaw Park, then we made the compromise that we would also put it at the sports complex. But then after that agreement or that discussion was had, more information came forward, one being that there was a request from the east side of 77 saying, all the things that you just said. And then on top of that, we received a water quality report from our Lynn Haven staff saying that the water quality at the sports complex, that water is from the county, while our water in Lynn Haven is well water. And so by having the splash pad at King Griffin, we would have less deterioration and less compromise on the filter system for the splash pad, which would make it a better place. Another point that was brought up, which would be worthy of consideration, was the fact that the children, after playing softball or baseball or football or whatever they were doing out there, would be tempted to go and cool off on the splash pad, perhaps in cleats and muddy outfits and all that, where the dirt would also compromise the filter system. So those two items, which I consider to be quite important, came up after that discussion and should have been worthy of discussion with this commission. But unfortunately, both times we've had the discussion, there's not been any motion to go forward. So while I respect what Commissioner Russell says about not going back on his word, sometimes when new information is brought forward, it's not really breaking your word to consider the new information. That's my opinion, but it may not be yours, and I respect yours entirely. I believe Ms. Tennell had something she wanted to say.
Libby Tennell, 505 Virginia Avenue. I got up here at one of the commission meetings a while back and said I think it should go to King Griffin Park because those kids over there need something. And I can't see why you want to put it over there at the sports complex. I met during the last campaign a lot of people because I was out here campaigning for everybody. And this teacher came up and I talked to him. He teaches at Highland Park, and he says, so many of the people, the kids that go to Highland Park, they've never been across the bridge to see the beach. And he says, they need something in Lynn Haven where they can go to. And I think y'all should consider this again. I don't care what you said to other people. I am the oldest person in Lynn Haven. I'm a native, and I think it should be done like the people want it. And so that's my opinion. And I think, this teacher I met in our church, we have a ladies' society. We adopted his class because so many of those kids, they don't have anybody. And so we have parties for them at every holiday, and they are so sweet, and they need something like that here in Lynn Haven. So that's all I got to say, and I wish y'all would consider it again, because I'll remember it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
name is Paul Lewis. I want to address you. I live on 1610 Arkansas, which I can look right over there at Cedar Park. And the thing I look at is saying, when you look at that area with the subdivisions there, they're getting ready to put a new apartment complex that's across from the park. You got Pine Forest, you got home. So to me, it seemed like it would be more feasible in the sense of just looking at how many kids and people in that area in the sense. So that's just my issue on the thing, is the idea that it would be used because you do have quite a few kids and just in that area without people coming to the park. And I know you talking about the people that's coming with the kids and the cliques and all that. I think what would happen is the kids that's coming, so like that don't watch the game that much, the little kids, the parents there still would probably bring those kids to that park. But when you look at the amount of people that live right in that area there with the subdivisions and all the homes, I feel like it's still feasible that you could have it there.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Mr. Robitaille.
Hello again. Dale Robitaille, New Hampshire Avenue. Is the issue dead? Without a second, is it at this time dead?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
This issue of the park, is it dead? Is it because we don't have a second, is the issue dead?
It will be dead unless it receives a second. And I wanted to give opportunity for the public to
Okay.
speak, so, but it will
Well,
be
as
dead.
long as it's not dead, you knew it, and I knew it. Everybody knew it. When we went down this road, it was going to be a slippery slope. Forgive me, I'm having dental work. And we knew that we should do everything possible to avoid hard feelings. We should make compromises. And what we're doing here tonight is we're beating a dead dog. You've all heard this before. We've all said this before. What this comes down to is that we're bigger than this. We're better than this. We don't need this. We're capable of having a splash pad for children on both sides of the city. Why not? I mean, this isn't Bill Husfield asking for a new school. We're asking about having a splash pad for kids. We got the money. We're good people. There's no reason we should divide up this community. And that's what's happening. You know it. You can see it right here tonight, black and white. There's no reason for that nonsense. We're bigger than this. You don't have to do this. All this nickel dime petty talk about money, come on. That's what we got Mr. White here for. Mr. White, come up with the money. Madam Mayor, Mr. White, come up with the money. That's all it comes down to, is money for kids. You're bigger than that. You can do better than this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just make,
Sure, if you'll give me just one moment, I believe Commissioner Friend wanted to follow up here. One moment.
I can certainly yield to the public. I have no problem with that.
That's okay, go ahead.
Okay. I just make a few comments. I think everyone knows that from 2011, I've brought having a splash pad to the budget meetings for the commission to go to the sports complex. The reason for that is, and I'm not going to change this position, the reason for that is I believe that if we're spending taxpayer dollars, we need to put it in a location that's going to get the most use. So that's what we brought to the table at this the beginning of this budget meeting, and that's what we agreed to. And yes, there was a compromise for having Kensaw Park in there as well. That being said, yeah, when we had additional information brought to us that there could be some additional overhead costs for operating out at the sports complex, we had to take that into consideration, and I did. I haven't seen any hard cost or even projections of the extra expenses for operating out at sports complex. I think every park that we have in this town is going to have the same issues with sand, tree, debris, every one of the parks, with the exception of now Kensaw Park has a park instead of a ballpark. They all have the same challenges that we would have at any of the parks for the cleanup and everything. But with the county water versus city water, I'm certainly willing to look at that, but I haven't seen any hard numbers. That being said, I would like for us to stick to our original, what we passed in the budget, to have it at the sports complex. That being said, I will be the very first person to bring it to the budget when we have our budget workshop coming in August or September, and I will certainly ask for a splash pad at Ken Griffin Park at that time. I just want to stick with what we said originally, and what the residents of Lynn Haven understood is that this one splash pad is going to go to the sports complex. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Did you want to follow up on what you said? You did not use the entire 3 minutes, so I have no problem with that.
Follow up, and I know y'all done made this decision. How come y'all can't just wait before you do either one of them, and then that way, if it's a money issue, then wait, and then you can do both of them in a sense, and that way that wouldn't be no issue. It's saying where you gonna put one, or where, in other words, just so like table the decision, and then actually wait till you get the money to put where you can put one in that area, and then put one over in Ken Griffin.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this issue before we move along?
Mayor, if I could just follow up to that.
Sure, go
Just
ahead.
for everyone that may not have attended the budget meeting, the budget for this particular splash pad that's in discussion is already in the budget. So we passed in the budget 2 splash pads for this year. So we can do the other splash pads, like Mayor said. I guess we received some of the parts today. So if we go forward with what we originally agreed upon, putting it at the sports complex, then what I'm suggesting is when we get to 2018-2019 budget, I will certainly ask at that point that we put a splash pad at Ken Griffin.
And I would just follow up with just for the history, that yes, we did have the money for both. And Mr. Leon Miller, at a meeting a couple of months ago, came before the commission and asked if the commission would reconsider the location, and that's what brought the discussion about. And so that's where we are. So if there's no further comment or discussion, there is a motion on the floor. There has not, yes, Mr. Miller? No, sir, you did not.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to be very honest and frank. I am really disappointed in the decision coming out of this. We got plenty of kids over there that use Ken Griffin Park every day. And we use these little bit of excuse to turn it down. I want to say to you, remember this. Voting time come around soon. And I hope the good Lord have me here, because it's going to take some people on this stand to say, yes, this is what we're going to do, and stop kicking us around over there. And I just feel in my heart right now that you got that part of the community labeled.
Mr. Miller, I appreciate your coming and speaking, and I appreciate the others who have. And I know that I'm probably alienating myself from certain members of the commission, but I think I've been alienated from them from the time I became mayor anyway, so I don't really worry about that all that much. But I think that Lynn Haven needs to be one Lynn Haven. It doesn't need to be east side, west side. And despite the fact that, the compromise was made to put the splash pad out at the sports complex, I'm very disappointed that there can't be compromise again based on the request of the community. And I apologize to you for the lack of action on some of the fellow commissioners. And
Mayor, if I could just follow up to that, I'd like to mention too that I'm also very disappointed. I'm very disappointed that we have to have a splash pad at Ken Griffin, that we can't put the splash pad at Ken Griffin, to be honest with you. I wish we had more money to do that, but what we had to do is we had to put one at Kensaw. We were raising funds for that, and I forget what the balance is for that. But maybe we could take those funds and put them at Ken Griffin, because Ken Griffin never came up before. And I wished it had, because I would certainly have agreed to put one at Ken Griffin before Kensaw Park, because I think Ken Griffin Park is more utilized than Kensaw. So I'm also disappointed. I'm disappointed that we don't have the money and that we didn't agree to it in the first budget round to put it at Ken Griffin instead of Kensaw Park.
Mayor, may I say something?
you certainly may.
The other thing that I was going to ask, I know this came up in the last discussion, is are we not still concerned about the after-hour activities that go on at the sports park? I know the city manager brought this up, that there's some situations over there, and that was one of your concerns. Has that been cleared up, or is that still a concern?
We have activity in all the parks.
Okay.
The police, we have them routinely go through all the parks.
Okay, so that's not particularly,
No, ma'am.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Tender. Does anyone else on the board have a comment? Okay, Commissioner Tender, I appreciate the motion that you made. I appreciate those of you who came to speak. I'm assuming there's not a second. Okay, moving on to the next item then, which is new business. Item number 10 is the approval to authorize the disposal of 4 surplus vehicles and equipment. Is there a staff report?
Yes, ma'am. These are a Sterling trash truck, a street sweeper, an old pickup truck, and an old police car that we look to put on bid with the Gov Deals online auction service. These are no longer used by the city, and they're surplus. So we're asking the committee to allow us to move forward and put them online to dispose of them.
Is there a motion, or first of all, is there any questions or comments from the commission? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve. Any questions from the commission? Any questions from the public? There appear to be none. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Item number 11 is the discussion, and that was approved, I'm sorry. Item number 11, discussion and possible action regarding approval of development order to construct a Tyndall Federal Credit Union drive-through located on Highway 77. This is a quasi-judicial public hearing and will require those involved to be sworn in by the city attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody who, excuse me, item number 11 is a quasi-judicial hearing of the city of Lynn Haven. Anyone who plans on presenting any testimony before the commission, please go ahead and stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you provide is the truth upon penalty of perjury? Thank you. And if any member of the commission has had any ex parte communications with the applicant or the city regarding this, please go ahead and disclose that on the record.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Amanda Richards, our city planner, and she'll be bringing this report.
I have a presentation, but it's not coming up on the screen.
Okay. I think they're working on it.
It's there. It's there, Ian. Thank you. This is a development order application for Tyndall Federal Credit Union drive-through and also a connecting road from 77 up to their corporate center on Minnesota. The applicant is Jamie Wes Goodman. The agent is Jeffrey Peterman, PE from Panhandle Engineering, and he is here tonight. The address, 3106 and 3116 Highway 77. There's 2 parcels involved. Parcel numbers 11822-000-000 and 11822-010-000. The current land use is commercial and the property size is approximately 4.15 acres. The land is currently vacant. I think there was an old, I don't know, car wash or hairdressers or something on there some time ago. It's one of those dark properties. It's kind of junky looking at the moment. The project engineers are Panhandle Engineering, and the reviewing engineer was Dewberry, and we have representation from Dewberry here tonight if you had any questions for Chris Short. I'm going to show you the location of the 2 parcels. This is the first parcel. It's just north of Haney Technical College, this small square here. And the second parcel wraps around that parcel. And the east is contiguous to the corporate center, which is on Minnesota. This is an aerial. You can see Haney to the south, and you can see the big Tyndall building on the east there. To the north is Grease Pro. This shows you that the property is currently commercial and there is an existing pond on the site. This is what is being proposed. So there'll be the drive-through, which will be up on the west side of the project, up near Highway 77. Behind the drive-through, there's going to be a landscaped park, which will have a pavilion and an amphitheatre. And behind that is on the east is the existing corporate centre. So the intent is to have access to not just the drive-through, but also you'll be able to go all the way up through from 77 to that corporate centre at the back, Minnesota. And this is the plan as an overlay on the aerial. So there will be some modifications to that pond. The pond will be enlarged and everything will be tidied up and all the supporting infrastructure will obviously be put in place. The city attorney does have a couple of comments to make on this project regarding the north access.
Yes, just real quick on the north access of the parcel. There's going to be the plan is to have a new entrance that would be combined with the Grease Pro entrance. And they have a DOT permit, a notice to intent to issue a permit, but they are trying to work out, the applicant is trying to work out with Grease Pro the actual scope of that entrance and the easement. And so my recommendation would be to have a conditional DO, just conditional upon that being worked out and that permit being issued by DOT eventually.
Okay, did everyone understand that if you should decide to make a motion, then it would be with that caveat?
Okay. I have a question, Mayor.
Sure.
Did I understand you meant to say that the back side, there was going to be an amphitheater?
Mm-hmm. A small one, just on their property. I don't think this pointy thing works. No. You can see, can you see at the front where the drive-through portion is, the dark grey area there on the left with all the drive-throughs. Behind that will be the pond, and then if you look to the east, there's like a little kind of squirrely thing. That's going to be a very small amphitheatre. They're having a landscape park there, so they're going to be taking out a lot of the old kind of straggly bush and trees, and they're going to be landscaping it with new trees, and it's going to be an area where I believe the public as well as the people who work in those office buildings can sit and have lunch, and I think Tyndall are planning on using it maybe to have their parties and work functions and things like that.
Thank you.
So Amanda, will the pond be affected in any way?
There's going to be some changes to the pond. The pond will be modified so as to be able to contain the stormwater and tidied up and everything and brought to code so that it can cope with the additional impervious.
Okay.
Are there other questions from the commission? Any questions from the public? Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move approval with the lawyer's comments.
Second.
There's been a motion for approval pending the attorney's comments, and then there's also been a second. Any further discussion? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so it stands approved as moved. Item number 12 is the first reading of ordinance number 1056, amending Chapter 10 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances to add specific language to the care and control of animals, including a revised fee schedule. Mr. White, do you have the ordinance?
I do. I'd like to preface this a little bit with the attorney.
Sure.
We worked on this and updated a lot of the fees associated with animal control, as well as try to put a little teeth in it where we can write tickets and utilize our magistrate. Thank you, sir. Utilize him to enforce the tickets that we do write people, cite people for cruelty to animals. If y'all remember, all this come out of the one we had. So with that, ordinance number 1056, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 10 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances regarding animals, adding specific care and control requirements, defining neglect and abandonment of animals, providing for enforcement and penalties for violation of this chapter, amending the fee schedule in Appendix A of the code relating to the animals, making other corrective revisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing for an immediately effective date.
Thank you. And because this is a first reading, no further action will be required at this meeting. Item number 13 is the first reading of ordinance number 1057 for the voluntary annexation of Ronald W. Mowat property, Highway 389-390 intersection. Mr. White?
Ordinance number 1057, an ordinance annexing into the municipal limits of the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, certain contiguous compact unincorporated land located directly west of County Road 389, south of East Highway 390 in Bay County, Florida, for an approximate 8.93 acres of property, and is more particularly described herein pursuant to the Florida statute, section 171.044, amending the boundaries of the city to include said land, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and reciting an effective date.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission regarding this first reading? Any questions from the public? Okay, because again, it is a first reading, no further action is required this afternoon. Item number 14 is the first reading of ordinance number 1058 for the small-scale future land use map amendment, Mowat property, Highway 389-390 intersection. Mr. White?
Ordinance number 1058, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from Bay County residential to City of Lynn Haven commercial for approximately 8.93 acres of property located southwest of Highway 389 and Highway 390 intersection. Parcels 11212-040-000, parcel 11529-000-000, and parcel 11533-000-000 in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from the public? Again, this is a first reading, so no action is required. Item number 15, the first reading of ordinance number 1059, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Regulations, NPDES, amending Chapter 7 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances.
And give you a little background on this. This is updating our current due to the fact DEP said it needed to have a little bit more strength to it. Ordinance number 1059, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 70 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances to add National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System regulations relating to the city's stormwater system, providing specific procedures and criteria for the city's stormwater system, providing for enforcement and penalties, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Again, this is a first reading requiring no action, but are there questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the public? Moving on to item number 16. This is Resolution 2018-05-713, adopting the City of Lynn Haven's Animal Shelter Volunteer Handbook. Mr. White, do you have the resolution?
I sure do. And
Thank
give you some background on this. We have a lot of people that want to volunteer, but with some of the animals that we do take in our care, there's cautions. So we wanted to make sure the volunteer handbook that we're submitting to you today outlines all of those, and to make sure that our employees have something that they can give anybody who might want to volunteer. Resolution number 2018-05-713, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, adopting the City of Lynn Haven Animal Shelter Volunteer Handbook for volunteer services performed at the Lynn Haven Animal Shelter and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval and adopting the resolution? I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions from the board? Any questions or discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so the resolution stands approved, and Mr. White, may I congratulate you and the staff, and of course Ramona at the animal shelter for coming up with this. I think it's a much-needed addition because we do have a lot of people who want to take part, and I think that it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 17 is Resolution 2018-06-714, amending the adopted general fund, Community Redevelopment Agency, and the approved enterprise fund budgets for fiscal year 2017-2018. And before Mr. White reads the resolution, I would like to point out, if you weren't here earlier, that we did conduct a workshop at 3 o'clock where the commission did go over with Mr. White any questions they had about the amended budget. And I think all of the questions were answered to the satisfaction of the commission and the public who are here. Mr. White, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 2018-06-714, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the adopted general fund, Community Redevelopment Agency, and the approved enterprise fund budgets for fiscal year 2017-2018.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval? For adopting the resolution?
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions from the board? Any discussion or questions from the public? There appear to be none. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so the resolution amending the adopted general fund, Community Redevelopment Agency, and the enterprise fund budgets for fiscal year 2018 are approved. Item number 18 is the approval of Charles Buddy, and I hope I say this, Bonvillon, to the Beautification Board. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? I'd like to thank, and I hope I didn't murder the name, Mr. Betty Bonvillon to the Beautification Board. Thank you so much for volunteering. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And then finally, I had the added number 19. Mr. White had asked that we add to the agenda the item no parking on 5th Street on July 4th, only from Tennessee to Montana, to aid in the ability of the police to help people get out of the park after the fireworks. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
And there is a second. Any further discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so no parking is approved. Item number 20 is adjournment. I'd like to thank all of you for attending and for participating in this afternoon's commission meeting, and look forward to seeing you at future meetings. The meeting is adjourned.